You believe sleep is rest. You believe the day is over when you close your eyes. You believe nothing important happens while you are unconscious in the dark. But you are wrong, completely wrong. The most important hours of your life are not the hours you spend working, praying, or fighting. They are the hours you spend asleep. Because while your conscious mind shuts down, another mind stays awake. A mind that never sleeps. A mind that has been building your entire life without your permission. The truth is this: you are not living the life you chose. You are living the life your beliefs chose for you. And those beliefs were planted in you, most of them, before you were 7 years old. There is a silent, invisible force that decides what you are allowed to receive, how much you are allowed to earn, how far you are allowed to rise. I call it the threshold state. Very few people know it exists. Even fewer know how to enter it. But every single night for a few sacred minutes, the door to it swings open. And whatever you carry through that door becomes the architecture of your tomorrow. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you believe while you sleep. You do not rise to the level of your prayers. You fall to the level of your programming. The person who never learns this will repeat the same year of their life 50 times and call it fate. They will work harder, pray louder, want more and receive the same. Not because God is silent, because their inner gate is closed. So before you drift off tonight, answer me this, and do not answer too quickly. Who would you be right now if no one had ever told you who you are? Hold that question. We are coming back to it. Let your body settle. Let your shoulders drop. You do not need to do anything for the next hour except listen, because what you are about to hear is not entertainment. It is reprogramming. And reprogramming does not require effort. It requires openness. Napoleon Hill spent more than 20 years studying the wealthiest, most accomplished people of his generation, and he discovered something that should have changed the world but was forgotten by most. He discovered that the difference between the person who prospers and the person who struggles is not talent, not luck, not education, and not even opportunity. It is the set of invisible beliefs operating in the subconscious mind. Napoleon Hill said that the subconscious mind makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thought impulses. It works with the material we feed it. Read that again with your soul. It works with the material we feed it. Your subconscious is not your enemy. It is a servant of perfect obedience. It has been faithfully building exactly what you have been feeding it since childhood. The poverty you see, it built from seeds of scarcity. The fear you feel, it built from seeds of doubt. The walls around your life, it built from blueprints you never consciously approved. And here is what almost nobody understands. The feeding happens most powerfully at the edge of sleep. Scripture saw this thousands of years before psychology gave it a name. In the book of Job, it is written that God speaks in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, in slumberings upon the bed. Then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. Sealed instruction. While you sleep. The ancients knew that the night is not empty. The night is a classroom. The question has never been whether you are being programmed in the dark. The question is, who is doing the programming? Tonight, for perhaps the first time in your life, the answer will be you. Think about how you fell asleep last night. Be honest. You probably fell asleep replaying an argument, or counting the bills you cannot pay, or scrolling through the highlight reels of other people's lives, or rehearsing tomorrow's anxieties like an actor preparing for a tragedy. And then you wonder why you wake up heavy. You wonder why the morning feels like a weight before your feet even touch the floor. You were not resting. You were rehearsing defeat. Every night in those final minutes before consciousness dissolves, your mind enters the threshold state, the narrow passage between waking and sleeping, where the critical, skeptical, doubting part of your mind steps aside, and the deep mind, the soil of your life, lies completely exposed. Whatever falls into that soil is accepted without argument. No resistance, no debate. The guard leaves the gate, and whatever you carry in your hands walks straight through. Carry worry through that gate for 30 years, and you will build a life that looks exactly like worry. Carry the quiet conviction that people like you never make it, and your subconscious will faithfully arrange your decisions, your habits, your words, even your posture, to make sure people like you never make it. It is not punishment, it is obedience. The servant builds what the master hands it, and you have been handing it the wrong blueprints in the most powerful hour of the day. Solomon wrote in Proverbs, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." The heart, in the ancient language, is not the muscle in your chest, it is the deep mind, the inner storehouse, and Solomon says the issues of life, the borders of life, the outcomes of life, flow out of it. Not out of your circumstances, not out of the economy, not out of your family name, out of the storehouse. Tonight you're going to open that storehouse and start removing what should never have been placed there. Let us name what is actually inside, because you cannot remove what you refuse to see. A limiting belief is not a thought. Thoughts come and go like birds. A limiting belief is a verdict. It is a sentence pronounced over your life so long ago that you stopped hearing it as a sentence and started hearing it as reality. Money is hard to come by. That is not the truth. That is a verdict, probably pronounced at your kitchen table when you were small, in a moment of fear by someone who loved you but was also wounded. People like us do not get those opportunities. A verdict. I am not smart enough, not young enough, not connected enough, not lucky enough. Verdicts, all of them handed down by tired voices and accepted by a child who did not know he had the right to appeal. And here is the part that should make you sit up even as you lie down. Your subconscious has been treating those verdicts as commands. Napoleon Hill said that any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought. He called this auto-suggestion, the agency through which the individual may voluntarily feed his subconscious mind. But notice the word voluntarily, because if you do not feed it voluntarily, it does not go hungry. It eats whatever falls on the floor. It eats the news. It eats your mother's fears. It eats the offhand comment a teacher made about you in front of the class when you were 9. It eats every repetition of every doubt you have ever entertained at midnight. You have been practicing auto-suggestion your entire life. You have simply been doing it against yourself. Now breathe, slowly. In through the nose, 4 counts. Hold it gently. Out through the mouth, 6 counts. Feel how the exhale is longer than the inhale. That single rhythm tells your nervous system that the danger is over, that the gate may open, that it is safe to receive. Do it again. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. You are already approaching the threshold state, and this time you are approaching it awake, aware, with new cargo in your hands. This is what the masters of old understood. David did not stumble into greatness. Listen to what he wrote in the Psalms. I will bless the Lord who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. The night seasons. David, a shepherd boy overlooked by his own father, a boy whose own family did not even call him in from the field when the prophet came looking for a king. That boy deliberately used the night to receive instruction. While his brothers slept on their resentments, David slept on revelation. And the boy the world forgot became the king the world remembers. Do you see it yet? The night seasons are not neutral, they are formative. He wrote elsewhere, when I remember thee upon my bed and meditate on thee in the night watches, my soul shall be satisfied. Meditation in the night watches, deliberate, chosen, directed. David was practicing 3,000 years ago exactly what Napoleon Hill rediscovered in the 20th century. Napoleon Hill said that the subconscious mind is more susceptible to influence during the period just before sleep than at any other time. He instructed his students to read their definite purpose aloud every single night, just before sleeping, with emotion, with faith, with the feeling of already possessing it. Not in the morning rush, not at noon, at night, at the threshold, because Hill knew what David knew and what you are learning right now. The last thought of the night is not the end of the day. It is the first instruction of tomorrow. So let me ask you something, and I want you to feel the weight of it. What instruction did you give last night? What instruction did you give every night for the last 10 years? If a stranger could read only your final thoughts of each day, the thoughts you carried across the threshold, what life would they predict for you? Sit with that, because the life they would predict is almost certainly the life you are living. That is not coincidence. That is mechanism. And here is where I need you to hear something carefully, because this is the turn in the road that most people miss, and missing it costs them everything. The mechanism does not care about your potential. The richest soil on earth will grow poison as faithfully as it grows wheat. Your subconscious, magnificent as it is, will manifest your inherited fears with the same precision it would manifest your God-given vision. So the work, the real work, the only work that matters tonight, is changing the seed. Paul wrote to the Romans, "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." Transformed by the renewing of the mind. The Greek word Paul used for transformed is the same word we use for metamorphosis, the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. Notice that the caterpillar does not become a butterfly by trying harder to be a butterfly. It does not crawl faster. It does not attend caterpillar improvement seminars. It enters a dark, quiet enclosure, and inside that darkness it is completely rewritten. Its old body literally dissolves, and from the dissolved material, a new creature is assembled. Your bed is that enclosure. Your sleep is that darkness. And tonight the old verdicts begin to dissolve. If something inside you just stirred, if you felt a flicker of recognition, like a memory of who you were before the world got its hands on you, I want you to do something simple. Pause for a second and write one word in the comments. Write the word threshold. Just that. Not for me. For you. Because there is power in declaration, and the moment you name the door, you begin to own the door. Scripture says that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and even a single written word is the tongue of the modern age. Write it, then come back, because what follows is the part of this message where we stop describing the prison and start picking the lock. Every limiting belief in your mind stands on 3 legs. Knock out the legs, and the belief collapses, no matter how long it has stood. The first leg is origin. Every verdict came from somewhere, and almost never from you. Trace it. The belief that money corrupts. Where did you actually hear it first? In a sermon misunderstood? From a struggling parent making peace with their struggle? The belief that you are not enough. Who pronounced it? A father who never said he was proud. A classroom that graded you like livestock. When you trace a belief to its origin, something profound happens. It stops being the truth and becomes an opinion. An old opinion. Someone else's old opinion. And you are under no obligation to keep renting space in your soul to someone else's old opinion. The second leg is evidence. Your subconscious is a lawyer that only collects evidence for the verdict it already holds. Fail once, and the belief whispers, "See, I told you." Succeed 10 times, and the belief calls it luck. This is why you can be talented and still stuck, gifted and still grounded. The evidence was never weighed fairly. The trial was rigged from the start. The third leg is repetition. A lie told once is a lie. A lie repeated for 30 years in the dark, at the threshold, with emotion, becomes a personality, becomes a posture, becomes a salary, becomes a marriage, becomes a destiny. But here is the gospel hidden inside the mechanism. Repetition built it, and repetition can rebuild it. The same hammer that built the prison can build the palace. Napoleon Hill said that there are no limitations to the mind except those we acknowledge. Acknowledge. That word is everything. The limitation has no power of its own. It has only the power of your acknowledgement, your nightly signature at the bottom of the old verdict. Tonight, you stop signing. Think of Moses standing before the burning bush. God himself, the voice of all creation, calls him to lead a nation out of slavery. And what does Moses answer? "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue." Hear what is happening in that moment. The creator of the universe is speaking promotion over a man, and the man is arguing for his limitation. He is defending his verdict to the very face of God. I am slow of speech. Who told him that? 40 years in Pharaoh's palace, 40 more in the wilderness, and the old verdict was still alive, still loud, still hired as his lawyer. And how does God respond? Who hath made man's mouth? Have not I the Lord? In one question, God knocks out all three legs at once. The origin is challenged, the evidence is overruled, and a new repetition begins. Certainly I will be with thee. The man who said, I cannot speak, stood before the most powerful ruler on earth and spoke a nation into freedom. Your limitation argued with God and lost. So do not be discouraged that yours argues with you. Of course it argues. It has been employed for decades and it does not want to be dismissed. Dismiss it anyway. And Gideon, oh, you need to hear about Gideon tonight. When the angel of the Lord finds him, Gideon is not standing on a battlefield. He is hiding in a winepress, threshing wheat in secret, terrified of the Midianites who have stolen his nation's harvest year after year. And the angel greets him with words that must have sounded like mockery. The Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. Mighty man of valor, spoken to a man hiding in a hole. And Gideon's answer is a museum of limiting beliefs, every exhibit on display. He says, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. Listen to the architecture of that sentence. My family is poor, I am the least. Notice he does not say I feel like the least. He says I am. The verdict has become identity. The opinion has become a name. And heaven's response is breathtaking, because God does not argue with Gideon's resume. God does not say, actually, your family is middle class. God simply says, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. Heaven addresses Gideon not as he sees himself, but as he truly is. Mighty man of valor. And here is the secret that will keep you listening to the very last word of this message. The transformation of Gideon did not happen in the battle. By the time the battle came, it was already finished. The transformation happened in the dark, at night in the private hours, when Gideon tore down his father's altar to a false god under the cover of darkness. His first act of courage was a night act. The new identity was installed at night before it was ever displayed in the day. Yours will be too. That is not poetry. That is the pattern. And the pattern has a final step that almost everyone skips. The step that separates those who feel inspired tonight from those who wake up different tomorrow. I will give it to you, piece by piece, before this hour ends. But the next piece requires you to understand what is happening inside your physical brain as you drift towards sleep. Because when you see the machinery, you will never doubt the miracle. As you lie there right now, your brain is shifting gears. In full waking life, it runs fast, alert, analytical, the state of arguments and traffic and deadlines. But as you relax, as your breathing slows the way it is slowing now, the brain descends into slower rhythms, into the deep, dreamlike frequencies of the threshold, the same state young children live in almost constantly. Stay with that thought because it explains your entire life. Small children live nearly all day in the very state you only pass through at the edge of sleep. That is why childhood is when the deepest programs were installed. The child does not filter. The child absorbs. Every word spoken over you in those years fell into open soil. No guard at the gate, no skeptic at the door. The voices of your childhood became the furniture of your subconscious. And now each night, for those few minutes at the threshold, you become that absorbent child again. The gate opens. The soil is bare. This is why Napoleon Hill was so precise, so insistent about the timing of his method. He instructed, repeat your affirmation just before falling asleep and see yourself already in possession of your goal. He knew that the same window that wounded you can heal you. The hour that installed the limits can remove them. What was written at the threshold can only be rewritten at the threshold. You cannot argue yourself out of a belief at noon that was installed in you at midnight. You must go back through the same door. And tonight you are standing at that door, awake inside it, perhaps for the first time since you were a child. Do you feel the gravity of this moment? Most people will live and die without ever once standing here on purpose. So now let us do the work, not learn about the work. Do it. I am going to walk you through the first practice, and you can do it exactly as you are. Lying down, eyes closing, no effort required. We begin with release because you cannot pour new wine into a full vessel. Bring to mind gently, without drama, one limiting belief that has governed you. Just one. The loudest one. Maybe it is about money. Maybe it is about being loved. Maybe it is the old whisper that you always ruin good things. Do not fight it. Do not flinch. Just look at it the way you would look at an old photograph. Now ask it the question of origin. Where did you come from? Wait. An image may rise. A kitchen, a classroom, a hospital corridor, a voice. Whatever rises, look at it with compassion, because the person who handed you this belief was usually carrying it themselves, handed to them by someone else, a chain of inherited verdicts stretching back generations. You are not here to hate them. You are here to be the link where the chain breaks. So say this within yourself, slowly, and mean it. This belief is not mine. It was given to me, and what was given can be returned. I return it tonight. I release it with peace. I am no longer its keeper. Feel that. Some of you just felt something physically loosen in your chest, a weight you have carried so long you mistook it for your own bones. That loosening is real. The body keeps the beliefs, and the body knows when one is leaving. Breathe it out. Long, slow exhale. Let the night take it. Isaiah wrote, "Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? A new thing, springing forth tonight, in you." And if you just release something, if you felt even a thread of that old weight leave your body, I want you to mark this moment, because moments that are marked become permanent, and moments that are not marked fade by morning. Go to the comments and write, "I returned it." 3 words, I returned it. You do not have to say what it was. Heaven knows and your subconscious knows, and that is enough. When you write it, you turn an invisible release into a visible covenant. And one day, months from now, you will scroll back to this night and read your own words and realize that this was the night the chain broke. Now the vessel is emptier, and an empty vessel must be filled quickly and deliberately, or the old tenant moves back in with its luggage. Jesus himself taught this. When the unclean spirit is gone out of a man, it walks through dry places, seeking rest and finding none. It says, "I will return into my house from whence I came out," and finding it empty, swept, and garnished, it brings others worse than itself. An empty house is an invitation, so we do not stop at release. Release is the beginning, never the end. Now we plant. And here you must understand the language of the deep mind, because the subconscious does not speak in words. Words are the surface. The subconscious speaks in images soaked in emotion. This is why 1,000 repetitions of a cold, mechanical affirmation accomplish less than one vivid scene felt completely. Napoleon Hill said that thoughts which are mixed with any of the feelings of emotions constitute a magnetic force which attracts other similar or related thoughts. Mixed with emotion. That is the activation. An affirmation without feeling is a seed without water, a letter without an address. So we will not merely speak tonight. We will see and we will feel. Close your eyes if they are not already closed. I want you to build a scene, not a vague wish, a scene with walls and light and temperature. It is an ordinary morning, 2 years from now, in the life you were created for. You wake up before the alarm and the first sensation is not dread. It is quiet. The quiet of a person who owes fear nothing. Feel the sheets. Feel the light coming through the window of a home that is yours, peaceful, provided for. You walk to the kitchen. Maybe there is someone you love there, or maybe there is solitude that finally feels like freedom instead of loneliness. You make your coffee or your tea, and as you hold the cup, you notice your hands. They are the same hands you have tonight, but they are steady now, because the mind that moves them is steady. Your phone sits on the counter, and you are not afraid of it. No dreaded messages, no bank alerts that make your stomach drop. The numbers in your accounts are not a source of shame anymore. They are a source of quiet gratitude, because provision found you once you stopped blocking the door. Feel that specific feeling. Not the feeling of wanting it, the feeling of having it. Already. Normal. Tuesday morning normal. This is the feeling Hill called burning desire transmuted into faith, and it is the feeling Scripture calls the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Substance, evidence. Faith is not wishing. Faith is pre-experiencing. Now hold the scene for 3 more breaths. In, out, in, out, in, out. Good. You have just spoken to your subconscious in its native language, and it heard every word. Understand what you just did, because understanding multiplies power. You did not fantasize. Fantasy is escape. What you did is rehearsal. The deep mind cannot fully distinguish between a vividly imagined experience charged with emotion and a physically lived one. Both leave footprints. Both write code. Athletes have known this for generations, rehearsing the race in the dark until the body learns the victory before the morning of the event. And what works for a body crossing a finish line works infinitely more for a soul crossing out of limitation. Every night that you rehearse the new life, you create memories of a future that has not happened yet. And the subconscious, finding those memories, begins to treat the new life as familiar, as normal, as yours. And whatever the deep mind accepts as normal, it begins to negotiate with reality to produce. It will adjust your choices without your noticing. It will make you suddenly see opportunities that were always there but invisible, because the mind only shows you evidence for the identity it currently holds. The job listing you would have scrolled past, the conversation you would have avoided. The idea that used to seem too big for someone like you, they were always in the room. The new identity simply turns on the light. Napoleon Hill said that when riches begin to come, they come so quickly in such great abundance that one wonders where they have been hiding during all those lean years. They were hiding in plain sight, behind a single closed belief. Solomon said it in 7 words: "As he thinketh in his heart, so is he." Not so he becomes someday, gradually, if the economy permits. So is he. Present tense. The thinking and the being are one event. Change the thinking in the heart. The deep storehouse and the being has already changed. The circumstances are simply the last to find out. Now I am going to tell you about a night in the book of Genesis, because hidden inside it is the exact blueprint of what is happening to you right now. And once you see it, you will understand why I said at the beginning that who you think you are is the question this whole night turns on. Jacob is running. He has deceived his father, stolen his brother's blessing, and now he flees into the wilderness with nothing but guilt and a stone for a pillow. Understand who lies down that night. A fugitive. A man whose own name means deceiver, supplanter, trickster. If anyone ever had evidence for a limiting identity, it was Jacob. His name itself was the verdict, and he lies down in the dark, in the middle of nowhere, at the lowest threshold of his life, and he sleeps. And in his sleep, heaven opens. He dreams of a ladder set upon the earth, its top reaching to heaven, the angels of God ascending and descending on it, and above it stands the Lord, who speaks not one word about Jacob's past, not one syllable about the deception, the running, the shame. Instead, God speaks destiny. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east. And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, to a fugitive, asleep, at night. And when Jacob wakes, he says the words I want you to carry for the rest of your life. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. He had been sleeping on holy ground his entire life and never knew it. Your bed is that ground. The threshold you cross every night is that ladder. The traffic between heaven and your deep mind has been moving all along. You simply did not know the place was holy. Now you know. And Jacob marked the moment. He took the stone he had slept on, set it up as a pillar, poured oil on it, and named the place Bethel, the house of God. He turned the site of his lowest night into an altar. Years later, that man with the broken name wrestled through one more night, one more darkness, and came out of it with a new name entirely. No longer Jacob the deceiver, but Israel, the one who prevails. The name change happened at night. The identity was rewritten in the dark. It is always rewritten in the dark. So here is what you are going to do, and this is the first pillar of the night ritual you will keep long after this video ends. Every night, before sleep, you will mark the threshold the way Jacob marked Bethel, not with a stone, but with a declaration. You will say, slowly, with feeling, words like these: Speak them with me now, inwardly, letting each one land. This place is holy. This night is working for me. I release the old verdicts. I receive the new name. My mind is being renewed while I sleep. What God has spoken over me is truer than what life has spoken over me. I am not who they said I was. I am who He says I am. Stay with the last one. I am not who they said I was. I am who He says I am. Say it once more, slower. I am not who they said I was. I am who He says I am. If your eyes are stinging right now, do not fight it. That sting is decades of agreement breaking. Somewhere inside you, a child who accepted a verdict too early is hearing the appeal granted at last. And if that landed somewhere deep, if you just felt the appeal granted, write it where it can be witnessed. Go to the comments and write, new name, 2 words, new name. Because Jacob did not keep Bethel a secret, and covenants spoken into the open carry a weight that private intentions never do. Write it and then settle back, because we are about to deal with the most dangerous limiting belief of all, the one almost nobody admits to carrying, the one that quietly cancels every prayer and every affirmation before they leave the building. And I will tell you now, it is probably not the one you think. It is not the belief that you cannot. It is the belief that you should not. Unworthiness. The deep, wordless conviction that abundance, love, and peace are for other people, cleaner people, people without your history, your failures, your secret shames. This belief is the master saboteur because it does not block the dream, it blocks the receiving. You can want with all your strength, work with all your discipline, and still carry underneath everything a quiet certainty that if the blessing actually arrived, it would have the wrong address, and the subconscious, the obedient servant, hears that certainty as a command. Return to sender. This is why some people get to the very edge of breakthrough year after year and watch it collapse at the last moment. The deal that falls through. The relationship that is sabotaged the week it gets serious. The money that arrives and evaporates. They call it bad luck. It is not luck. It is an inner gatekeeper enforcing an inner verdict. Not worthy. Do not let it in. Napoleon Hill saw this in thousands of lives and wrote that the subconscious mind will translate into reality a thought driven by fear just as readily as it will translate into reality a thought driven by courage or faith, just as readily. The machinery is neutral, the verdict decides, and the verdict of unworthiness is almost always the oldest one in the storehouse, planted before memory, watered by every failure since. So how do you remove a belief that hides below words? You cannot argue with it. It does not attend debates. You overwhelm it with a higher verdict. Hear the scripture and do not let it pass you like background music. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us while. Not after you improved, not once you deserved it, while. The highest court in existence has already ruled on your worth, and the evidence it accepted was not your performance. You were valued at the price heaven was willing to pay, and heaven paid everything. So the unworthiness in your storehouse is not humility. Hear me. It is not humility. It is a counterfeit verdict contradicting the supreme court of the universe. Humility is agreeing with God, and God calls you worthy of the new name. Tonight, when the old whisper comes, and it will come, you will not wrestle it. You will simply answer, that case is closed. The ruling is in. I am received. And then you will breathe and let the gavel echo. Feel your body now. Heavier, warmer. The threshold is near, and that is exactly right, because everything from here forward is being spoken directly to the part of you that builds tomorrows. If you drift, drift. The deep mind hears with the ears that never close. Job said it. God speaks in slumberings upon the bed and seals instruction. Let the sealing begin. I am going to give you the complete night ritual now, the full practice, the one that turns this single night into a permanent architecture. It has 4 movements, and together they take less than 15 minutes, but those 15 minutes repeated will outweigh years of daytime struggle. The first movement is the sweep. As you lie down, before anything else, you empty the day. You breathe in for 4 counts, hold gently, and release for 6. And with each long exhale, you name what you are not taking across the threshold. The argument, exhale. It stays outside. The fear about the bills, exhale. It stays outside. The replaying of old conversations exhale outside. You are a gatekeeper now, and the gate has standards. Paul wrote, "Let not the sun go down upon your wrath," and the instruction is wider than anger. Let not the sun go down on anything you do not want planted, because whatever crosses the threshold gets planted. The second movement is the verdict reversal. You choose one limiting belief, only one per night, and you do what we did together earlier. Trace the origin, see the chain, return the package. This belief is not mine. It was given, and what was given can be returned. I release it with peace. One belief, a night. Do not try to demolish the whole prison in an evening, a wall a night, and in a season the prison is a field. The third movement is the planting, and this is where Napoleon Hill's entire method concentrates into a single practice. Hill instructed his students to write a clear statement of their definite chief aim and to read it aloud twice daily. And the reading he considered most important was the one done immediately before sleep. But he added the ingredient that 99% of people leave out, the ingredient without which the whole practice is just noise. He said, "As you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of it. Already." So the planting is this. You speak your affirmations, and behind every sentence you hold the scene, the morning we built together, the steady hands, the quiet kitchen, the Tuesday morning of the new life. Words plus image plus feeling. That is the seed with the water and the sun. Say them with me now and let each one fall slowly like a stone into deep water. I am free from every verdict that was spoken over me in fear. My mind is fertile ground, and I choose every seed. Wealth flows to me because the gate is finally open. I am worthy to receive because the highest court has ruled, and the case is closed. My past was a classroom, not a sentence. While I sleep, my mind builds the life I have seen. Every morning I wake more aligned, more peaceful, more prosperous than the night before. What is mine is finding me now. Let those words settle. Do not analyze them. Soil does not analyze seeds. It just closes around them and goes to work in the dark. And the fourth movement is the surrender, and without it the other three remain incomplete. After the sweep, after the reversal, after the planting, you let go. Completely. You do not lie there monitoring whether it is working. You do not clutch the seed and dig it up every hour to check for roots. Anxious checking is a vote of no confidence, and the deep mind counts every vote. The psalmist wrote, "It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep." He gives to his beloved in sleep. Some translations render it that way, and what a rendering it is. The giving happens in the sleeping. The provision moves while the striving stops. This is the paradox that breaks the modern mind and frees the ancient soul. The final act of power is the release of power. Jesus described the kingdom this way. A man casts seed into the ground and sleeps and rises night and day, and the seed springs and grows up, he knoweth not how. He knoweth not how. The farmer does not understand germination, and the not understanding does not stop the harvest. Your job is the seed and the soil. The how belongs to God. So you finish the ritual with one sentence, the sentence of the surrendered. It is planted, it is working. Good night. And then you sleep the sleep of a person who has finally stopped doing the subconscious mind's job for it. Now, while your body rests deeper, let me take you inside the mind of the man whose teachings run through this entire night, because there is a part of Napoleon Hill's story that most people who quote him have never heard. And it is the part that proves everything you are practicing right now. Hill had a son named Blair, and Blair was born without ears. Not deaf in the ordinary sense, born with no physical ears at all. The doctors told Hill plainly that the boy would never hear and would likely never speak. That was the verdict, delivered by the highest earthly authority in the room, written in the language of medical certainty. And Napoleon Hill, holding his newborn son, made a decision that sounds like madness and is actually the purest demonstration of his philosophy ever recorded. He decided to reject the verdict. He wrote later, "I reasoned that if there is no such thing as a limitation in the mind, there should be no such thing as a limitation in the body that the mind cannot influence." And he began a nightly practice. Every single night, as Blair lay at the threshold of sleep, Hill would sit beside his bed and speak to him. He told the boy stories in which the absence of ears was not a curse, but an advantage, a distinction, a reason people would treat him with special kindness, a seed of some great benefit waiting to reveal itself, night after night, year after year. At the threshold, into the open soil, the same deliberate planting. And the boy who was sentenced to silence developed against every prognosis a meaningful degree of hearing, learned to speak, went to university, and dedicated himself to bringing hope to others who could not hear. Hill said that he watched the seed of an advantage he had planted in the boy's mind germinate and bear fruit. Now understand why I told you this. Hill did not discover his night method in a library. He proved it on the person he loved most, against a verdict written in flesh and the verdict lost. So when the old whisper asks you tonight, but what if my limitation is real? What if my verdict is different? You remember Blair Hill, the boy with no ears who heard. Verdicts written in childhood are not prophecies. They are only the first draft, and the pen is in your hand now. And what was true for a child's ears is true for the invisible wounds you carry. Some of you were not just handed limiting beliefs, you were handed them with violence, with abandonment, with words no child should ever absorb. And you have wondered, quietly for years, whether people who started where you started can ever truly be free, or whether the damage goes too deep for any ritual to reach. Listen to me. Joseph started in a pit, thrown there by his own brothers, sold like an object, carried to a foreign land, falsely accused, forgotten in a prison for years. If trauma disqualified a person from destiny, Joseph would be a footnote. Instead, the dreams God planted in him as a boy, dreams, notice, given at night, in sleep, at the threshold, those dreams outlived the pit, outlived the slavery, outlived the prison, and walked him into the palace. And when he finally stood before the brothers who broke him, he spoke the sentence that turns every wound in your history into raw material. Ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good. The evil was real, he does not deny it, but the meaning was overruled. The same event rewritten by a higher author. That is what is happening in your storehouse tonight. The events of your past cannot be changed, but their meaning is being rewritten, and in the deep mind the meaning is everything. Because the subconscious does not store events. It stores interpretations. Change the interpretation, and you have changed the past that lives inside you, which is the only past that has any power over your future. So I will ask you now the question I asked at the very beginning of this night, the one I told you to hold. Who would you be right now if no one had ever told you who you are? You have been carrying that question for an hour, and now you are ready for the answer, because now you can see what the question really means. Strip away the kitchen table verdicts. Strip away the classroom labels, the family prophecies, the inherited fears, the interpretations a wounded child made of a confusing world. Strip away everything that was installed and keep only what was created. What remains? What remains is the original design. The you that existed before the world got its hands on the clay. Scripture says you were fearfully and wonderfully made, that you were known before you were formed in the womb, that works were prepared in advance for you to walk in. Prepared in advance, for you specifically. That original design never went anywhere. It has been buried under verdicts the way a masterpiece gets buried under decades of careless paint. But burial is not destruction. The answer to the question, who would you be if no one had ever told you who you are, is this. You would be who you actually are. The verdicts were never you. The limits were never you. The fear was never you. They were paint. And every night, from this night forward, a layer comes off. That is why this practice is not self-improvement. You are not building a new person. You are excavating the original one. The masterpiece was always under there. The painter signed it before you took your first breath. Feel the truth of that for a moment in the stillness, because there is a kind of grief in it and a kind of joy, and both are holy. Grief for the years lived under the paint. Joy because the excavation has begun and nothing can stop it now except your own surrender of the brush. And you are not surrendering. I can feel it from here. Somewhere tonight, in rooms scattered across the world, thousands of people are lying in the dark, hearing these same words, crossing this same threshold. and the old verdicts are dissolving in thousands of storehouses at once. You are not alone in this excavation. If you want to feel that, if you want one small act of fellowship before sleep takes you, write in the comments the one word that describes what is under your paint. Not what was, what is under it. Peace, courage, abundance, fire. Whatever word rises when you ask, who am I beneath the verdict? Write that single word, and as you write it, understand what you are doing. You are introducing your original self to the world, perhaps for the first time. And when you read the words of others, hundreds of single words, each one a buried masterpiece announcing itself, you will understand that this night is bigger than your bedroom. Now we must talk about the days ahead, because tonight will end, the sun will rise, and the world will be waiting with all its old evidence, ready to test the new planting. I would be failing you if I sent you into those days unprepared. Here is what will happen, and I tell you in advance so that when it happens it confirms the process instead of shaking it. The old beliefs will counterattack, probably within 72 hours. A bill will arrive at the worst moment. A person will speak the exact words of the old verdict, as if your past hired them. A setback will appear, tailored, almost theatrical, perfectly designed to whisper, "See, nothing has changed. Hear me clearly." This is not the failure of the practice. This is the proof that it struck something. A prison does not negotiate with prisoners who have stopped trying to leave. It only tightens when someone is actually at the wall. Napoleon Hill wrote that before great success comes, people are met with temporary defeat, and that more than 500 of the most successful men he ever knew told him that their greatest success came just one step beyond the point at which defeat had overtaken them. One step beyond. The counterattack is not the end of the road. It is the landmark that says the border is near. Elijah knew this terrain. One day he stands on Mount Carmel, calling down fire from heaven, the greatest victory of his life, and within hours a single threat from Jezebel sends him running into the wilderness, collapsing under a juniper tree, praying to die. The old fear counterattacked the day after the breakthrough. That is the pattern. And what does heaven do with the collapsed prophet? No rebuke, no lecture. An angel touches him and the instruction is almost shockingly gentle. Arise and eat. And then, Scripture says, he lay down and slept again. Food and sleep. Heaven's prescription for a man whose beliefs were under siege was nourishment and the threshold. He was fed, he slept, he was fed again, and in the strength of that meat he went 40 days to the mountain of God, where he learned that the voice he sought was not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a still, small voice. The deep things never shout, the verdicts shout, the healing whispers. So when your counterattack comes, and it will, you now know the protocol. You do not argue with the storm at noon. You eat, you return to the threshold, you run the ritual, and you listen for the whisper. The whisper always says the same thing. The planting holds. Keep walking. And this brings us to the law that decides everything. The law that separates the thousands who feel moved tonight from the few who are transformed by the new moon. Persistence, not intensity. Persistence. One night of planting is an experience. 40 nights of planting is a new identity. Napoleon Hill said that persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel. And he warned that without persistence, you will be defeated even before you start, and with it, you will win. The subconscious was not programmed in a night, and although release can happen in a moment, the deep rewriting respects rhythm. So here is your assignment, and I give it to you as a mentor, not a suggestion. 40 nights. The number is not an accident. 40 is the number of transformation across all of Scripture. 40 days of rain to wash the old world. 40 years in the wilderness to remove Egypt from a people long after the people were removed from Egypt, because that is exactly your situation. You left the house of your old verdicts years ago, but the verdicts have not yet left you. 40 days of Moses on the mountain. 40 days of Jesus in the desert where, notice it, every single temptation was an attack on identity. If thou be the Son of God. The enemy of your soul does not waste time tempting your behavior. He attacks the if, he attacks the verdict. And Jesus answered every attack the same way, with planted word. It is written, not it is felt, not it is likely. It is written. After 40 nights of planting, when the if comes for you, you will find written words rising in you before fear can finish its sentence. That is what 40 nights builds. An automatic answer. So, 40 nights. The sweep, the reversal, the planting, the surrender. 15 minutes, miss a night, do not collapse into the old all or nothing verdict. That is just another piece of paint. Simply return the next night. The soil keeps no grudges. There is one more force you must arrange in your favor. And Hill considered it so decisive that he devoted an entire principle to it. He called it the mastermind, the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people. And he said that no individual may have great power without availing himself of it. But I want to give you the night version of this principle, the version nobody teaches. Your mastermind is not only the people you meet with, it is every voice you allow near your threshold. The last podcast before bed is a mastermind member. The argument you replay is a member. The accounts you scroll at midnight, the news you absorb in the dark, the friend whose fears you carry to your pillow, members, all of them, seated at the table of your night council, voting on tomorrow. Look at your council honestly. Who has a seat? Whose verdicts get repeated at your threshold? The psalmist opened the entire book of Psalms with this exact audit. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. And what is his alternative? His delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. There it is again, and night. And then the promise, he shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season, his leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Whatsoever. That is not a small word. So tonight you reform the council. The voices of fear lose their seats. The verdicts of wounded people, returned with compassion, lose their seats. And the seats go to the voices that agree with your original design. This message can be one of them. These words can sit at your threshold for the next 40 nights if you choose, the same way Hill sat by Blair's bed night after night, planting advantage into open soil. The tools are in your hands. The council answers to you now. There is a parable Jesus told that explains, with frightening precision, why two people can hear this same message tonight and live two entirely different futures. A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they sprang up quickly, but having no root, they withered when the sun rose. Some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. And some fell on good ground, and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Notice something most people miss. The seed was identical in all 4 cases. The sower was identical. The only variable was the ground, and the ground is the heart, the deep mind, the storehouse you have been clearing all night. The wayside hearer is the one who hears these words, but never lets them pass the surface, the scroller, the skimmer, the one already composing an objection. The birds, the distractions, the noise, the next video devour the seed before nightfall. The stony hearer is the one who feels everything tonight, tears, chills, resolve, and does the ritual for 3 nights with blazing intensity, and on the 4th night when the feeling fades, stops. No root. The feeling was never the root. The repetition is the root. The thorny hearer plants faithfully but never clears the counsel, never removes the midnight scrolling, the fear-soaked conversations, the borrowed anxieties, and Jesus names the thorns precisely. The cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful, planted but choked, alive but fruitless. And then there is the good ground hearer, not a more talented person, not a luckier one, simply the one who heard the word, understood it, and kept the ground clear long enough for the root to take hold. That is the entire difference between the 100-fold life and the explanation-filled life. The ground. And the ground is the one thing in this whole universe that is completely, absolutely every single night under your authority. Decide now which hero you are, because the decision is being made either way, and not deciding is itself a decision made by the oldest verdicts on your behalf. And while we are being precise, let us deal with your mouth, because the threshold is not only crossed at night. There is a daytime version of this entire teaching, and it lives on your tongue. Every word you speak about yourself is an affirmation, whether you call it one or not. I am terrible with money. I always attract the wrong people. I could never do that. This is just how I am. Do you hear what those sentences are? They are night plantings done in broad daylight, auto-suggestion performed in public, seeds sown with the most powerful fertilizer that exists, your own voice, which the deep mind trusts above all other voices on earth. James wrote that the tongue is a little member that boasts great things, a small helm that turns the whole ship, a spark that sets a forest ablaze. And Solomon said it without softening, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. You shall eat the fruit of your own talking." Every casual self-condemnation is a meal you have scheduled for your future self. So here is the daytime discipline that protects the nighttime planting. For the next 40 days, you become the editor of your own mouth. Not perfect, an editor. When the old sentence starts, and it will start, because it has been rehearsed for decades, you catch it mid-air and you rewrite it before it lands. I am terrible with money becomes I am learning to command money, and money is learning to obey. I always fail becomes I have never failed. I have only gathered the education my success required. This is not denial. Denial pretends the past did not happen. This is interpretation, the same holy rewriting Joseph performed over the pit. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Same facts, new verdict. And the deep mind, hearing the new verdict from the voice it trusts most, begins quietly to update the file. Now I want to give you one more scene to plant, because the kitchen of the new life was about peace, and this one is about power, and you need both in the storehouse. Eyes closed, body heavy, drift with me. It is 2 years from now, and you are sitting across a table from someone you needed to face. Maybe it is a banker, maybe an employer, maybe a buyer, a partner, a landlord, or simply a relative who knew the old you and expects the old you to walk in. Feel the chair under you. Feel your spine straight without strain, the posture of a person whose inner court is no longer in session because every case was closed long ago at the threshold. You speak, and your voice comes out level and unhurried, and you notice almost with amusement that you are not performing confidence. You are simply not afraid. The fear that used to arrive before you did, that used to enter every room first and negotiate your defeat in advance, did not make the trip. It was returned 40 nights ago with the rest of the borrowed luggage. The person across the table senses it. People always sense it. They are not responding to your words. They are responding to your verdicts, and your verdicts have changed. Watch them nod. Watch the conversation bend toward you the way conversations always bent away from you before, and feel the specific feeling underneath the scene. Not triumph, something quieter and far more powerful. Normality. This is simply who you are now. Hold it for 3 breaths. In, out, in, out, in, out, planted. One last teaching before the deep rest, and it may be the most liberating sentence of the entire night. You do not have to believe any of this is working in order for it to work. Read the mechanism again. The subconscious accepts what is repeated with feeling at the threshold. It does not first require the conscious mind's endorsement. Hill understood this completely. He wrote that the subconscious mind will act upon any plan or thought, whether you believe in its source or not, provided it is delivered with repetition and emotion. This is why skeptics are transformed by this practice exactly as often as believers, sometimes faster, because skeptics, once convinced by results, become the most relentless practitioners on earth. So if a voice in you has whispered all night, "This is too simple, this cannot work for someone like me," let that voice stay. Let it watch. It does not have a vote at the threshold. It is the conscious guard, and the guard, as you now know, steps aside at the door of sleep no matter what opinions it holds. Your doubts are standing outside a gate they cannot enter, objecting to a planting they cannot stop. Do the 40 nights with your doubts intact, and let the harvest hold the debate. Thomas doubted the resurrection until his fingers touched the evidence, and he was not expelled from the company of the faithful for it. He was simply invited closer. Reach hither thy hand. The invitation stands for you too. Doubt all you like. Plant anyway. The soil has never once asked a seed what the farmer believes. Now let everything slow down. We have done the teaching. We have done the seeing. What remains is the deepest part of this night, the part designed for the very edge of sleep, where words stop being information and start being instruction. From here, you do not need to follow. You do not need to remember. You only need to drift and let the words fall where the guard no longer stands. Breathe in slowly and let it go. Feel the weight of your body pressing into the bed holding you the way the night is holding you, the way you have been held all along and knew it not. Surely the Lord is in this place. Your hands are heavy now, your face is soft. The day is outside the gate, and it stays outside the gate. Inside, there is only soil and seed and the slow work of God. Listen now, deep mind. Listen, storehouse. Listen, keeper of the blueprints. New instructions are arriving and they carry the seal of the original designer. The old verdicts are dismissed. The case of not enough is closed. The case of too late is closed. The case of people like me is closed. The file of unworthiness has been overruled by a higher court, and the ruling is final, and the ruling is love. You are allowed to prosper. You are allowed to be at peace. You are allowed to receive without flinching, to rest without guilt, to rise without apology. The gate is open. The gate is open. What is yours is moving toward you in the dark. The way roots move, the way rivers move, without noise, without hurry, without the possibility of being stopped. And as you sink deeper, let these words repeat in the quiet places, slowly, like waves arriving on a calm shore. I am free from every word spoken over me in fear. I am free. The beliefs of my childhood were borrowed, and tonight they are returned. I keep only what was created. I release everything that was installed. My mind is renewed, night by night, layer by layer, and the masterpiece is surfacing. Wealth is not foreign to me. Abundance is my native land, and I am coming home. Money flows to me through open gates, in expected ways and unexpected ways, and I receive it with steady hands and a grateful heart. Doors open for me now that no man can shut. Favor finds me in rooms I have not yet entered. The works prepared for me in advance are calling, and my feet already know the road. I forgive the ones who handed me their fears. They were carrying what was handed to them. The chain breaks with me. The chain breaks tonight. My children and their children will inherit open gates because I did the work in the dark. I am not who they said I was. I am who He says I am. I am the tree planted by rivers of water. My fruit comes in its season. My leaf does not wither. Whatsoever I do prospers. While I sleep, He gives. While I sleep, the seed grows, I know not how. While I sleep, my life is being rearranged around the new name. It is planted. It is working. It is finished in the unseen, and the seen is only waiting for its appointment. Deeper now, softer now. If you are still aware of these words, let them become like rain on a roof, a sound that asks nothing of you. The renewing of the mind is not your labor anymore tonight. You have swept, you have returned, you have planted, you have surrendered, and the rest belongs to the faithful dark. Think one last time, without effort, of the morning we built together. The quiet kitchen, the steady hands, the Tuesday of the new life. It is not a dream, it is a memory arriving early. Your deep mind holds it now. And your deep mind never sleeps. And your deep mind never forgets. And your deep mind always builds what it holds. Napoleon Hill said that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. And tonight, in this state, conception and belief have finally met in the same room. That meeting is the miracle. Everything visible is just paperwork. So rest. Rest like David in the night seasons, receiving counsel. Rest like Jacob at Bethel, with the ladder standing and the traffic moving. Rest like the farmer who has cast the seed and sleeps, and rises night and day, and the seed springs and grows up. He knoweth not how. You do not need to know how. You only needed to know the door, and now you know the door, and the door knows you. And in this deep place, one final seed, the seed of gratitude, because gratitude is the frequency of the harvest spoken in advance. The anxious heart says, I will thank when I see. The planted heart says, I thank because I have seen within, where all things are seen first. So in the softness of this moment, give thanks ahead of schedule. Thank you for the mind that can be renewed. Thank you for the gates that are open. Thank you for the verdicts overturned, the chains returned, the name restored. Thank you for the provision already traveling, for the doors already unlocking, for the people already being positioned along a road I have not yet walked. Thank you for the years under the paint, for even they were not wasted. They taught me the weight I will never again mistake for my own bones. Jesus stood before a tomb that had been sealed for 4 days, before any visible change, before a single stone had moved in the natural realm, and he lifted his eyes and said, "Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me." Past tense, hast heard. The thanksgiving came before the miracle, and then the stone moved, and then the dead thing walked out into the light. That is the order of the kingdom, and tonight it is your order. Give thanks at the sealed tomb. Give thanks in the dark, with the stone still in place, because gratitude spoken before evidence is the loudest faith there is, and the deep mind records it as a receipt for goods already owned. Whisper it now, with whatever awareness remains. Thank you. It is already done. And feel how that sentence settles the whole body, how the shoulders release their final inch, how the breath finds the slow rhythm of a person with nothing left to defend. This is the rest that was promised. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. You labored under verdicts that were never yours. You were heavy laden with inherited stones. And tonight you came, and tonight the exchange was made, and the rest is not a metaphor. It is happening in your body right now, cell by cell, breath by breath, the physical signature of a soul that has stopped arguing with its own design. If you are still here, still listening at the edge, then you are exactly the kind of person this message was made for, the kind who stays through the whole excavation. And I want to leave the last layer of paint in your hands, the final limiting belief, the quietest one, the one that survives all the others, is the belief that nights like this do not really change anything, that tomorrow the world will be the same, and so will you. Hear the answer, and let it be the seal on tonight's instruction. The world may look the same tomorrow. The seed never looks like the tree the morning after planting, but underground, everything has already changed. The verdict has been appealed, the gate has been found, the council has been reformed, the 40 nights have begun, and a person who knows the door of the threshold state, who tends it deliberately, with scripture in one hand and a definite purpose in the other, is no longer the same person, whatever the mirror says for the first few mornings. You are no longer the prisoner, you are the gatekeeper. You no longer sleep to end your days, you sleep to author them. So tonight and tomorrow night and for 38 nights after that, you will return to this door. And if these words have served you, let this message hold its seat at your council. Press like so this reaches another soul lying awake tonight under verdicts they never chose. Subscribe so that each night of your 40, there is a voice at your threshold that agrees with your original design. And before sleep takes you, leave one final comment. The covenant of this whole night, 3 words. The gate opens. Write it as a declaration, not a hope. The gate opens. Because it does, it has, and from this night forward, you are the one who decides what walks through. Now close your eyes completely. Breathe out the last of the old world. It is planted. It is working. Good night.